There comes a moment, silent and invisible, when the life you built with your hands begins to whisper back to you. Not through triumph, not through applause, but through unease, through the still persistent ache that something essential has been lost, or never known at all. You try to ignore it, numb it, distract it with noise, with ambition, with the image you crafted and polished so carefully. But it waits. Beneath the surface, beneath the smiles and the schedules and the roles you've learned to play so well, something older watches. Something forgotten remembers you. It is not the world that calls for you to change. It is your own soul begging to be seen. You are not born as a persona. You are not carved from a mold that fits someone else's story. You emerged whole, raw, unfinished, with a self that is both mystery and mirror. But over time, to survive, you chose to forget that self. You became what pleased them, what earned love, what avoided pain, and slowly you buried your truth in a tomb of performance. Carl Jung called it the persona, the mask we wear to navigate society. It is necessary. It is a bridge between us and the world, but when the mask becomes your face, when you confuse it for who you really are, you begin to die while still appearing alive. And buried beneath that mask is everything you exiled. The rage you weren't allowed to show, the desires you labeled wrong, the vulnerability you deemed weakness, the dreams you feared were too bold, too strange, too real. You did not destroy them. You simply disowned them. They became your shadow, and the shadow never sleeps. The shadow is not evil. It is not your enemy. It is simply the truth you refuse to face. And what you refuse to face rules you. You see it in your sabotages, in the way you push away what you claim to want, in the anger that erupts without warning, in the jealousy that twists in your gut, in the fear of being fully seen even by those you love. The shadow waits in silence, but it is not passive. When denied, it festers. It grows in the cracks of your denial. It feeds on the gap between your image and your essence. And one day it takes the wheel in your decisions, your addictions, your repressed longings, steering your life from the depths you dare not explore. To master your shadow is not to conquer it like an enemy. It is to turn toward it with unflinching eyes and say, I see you, I will not run, I will not shame you anymore. Because the moment you face what you've hidden, it ceases to control you. But be warned, this path will cost you. It will cost your comfort, your illusions, the flimsy safety of denial. This is not a gentle awakening. It is a crucifixion of the false self. To descend into the underworld of your psyche is to die and be reborn. It is to lose everything you thought made you, only to discover you are never that small to begin with. Your shadow holds power. It holds your creativity, your raw energy, your sexuality, your aggression, your truth. Everything that could not find a home in your childhood or your culture now lives in exile, waiting to be integrated. Not erased, not excused, integrated. Because if you do not integrate your shadow, it integrates you, quietly, fatally. And it does not need your permission. You do not rise by escaping your darkness. You rise by learning to sit in it without fear. You rise by understanding that the darkness you flee is the teacher you need most. You rise by realizing that pain is not your enemy. It is your compass. The wound reveals where the light must enter. But few go inward, because the inward path demands stillness, silence. And silence is terrifying to the one who has built their life on noise. We are taught to chase, to perform, to ascend. But no one tells us how to descend, how to fall with intention, how to listen when the ego finally cracks. This is the first death. The death of identity. And it feels like failure. It feels like madness. But it is the doorway to everything real. You must walk through the fire of your contradictions. You must stand in the ruins of what you pretended to be. And from that sacred ash, you will remember who you are. You cannot bypass this descent. There is no shortcut to wholeness. Every unclaimed part of you must be met not with judgment, but with presence. This is the work of the soul, the quiet, relentless excavation of everything that was buried in order to be loved. And as you descend, you will encounter ghosts, echoes of the past that still breathe inside your nervous system. The voice of the parent who never saw you, the betrayal you never spoke of, the grief you tucked beneath your ambition. They will rise again, not to punish you, but to be finally witnessed, not with resistance, but with reverence. You will rage, you will grieve, you will tremble in the bones of your own truth. But as you feel deeply honestly without filters, the chains begin to break. The prison was never the pain. The prison was your refusal to feel it. We live in a world that praises numbness as strength. But numbness is not strength. It is the absence of self. And when you refuse to feel, you become hollow, a mask floating through the days, wondering why nothing feels real, why success tastes like ash, why connection slips through your fingers like smoke. To reclaim your aliveness, you must reclaim your pain. To awaken, you must descend into the dream you've been living and call it what it is, an escape. This is the threshold. Carl Jung spoke of the tension between the persona and the self, the fracture point where the truth demands to emerge. And when it does, your life will not get easier. It will get clearer, and that clarity will demand courage. Because now you can no longer lie to yourself. You will begin to see the games you play, the masks you wear, the patterns you repeat. Not with shame, but with sobering honesty. And this honesty will feel like a fire burning through the fabric of who you were. You'll realize that many of your choices were not your own, they were survival strategies. Adaptations, echoes of a past self trying to belong. But belonging at the cost of your soul is not belonging. It's abandonment. And the longer you betray your truth to be accepted, the more lost you become, not in the world, but within your own skin. You will feel like a stranger to yourself, until the day you stop searching for approval and start listening for alignment. Alignment is not comfort, it is truth. And truth often hurts before it heals. But it is in that sacred pain that your real life begins, not the one you perform, but the one you inhabit. The path of individuation, as Jung called it, is not a self-help trend. It is a sacred rebellion against unconscious living. It is the fierce devotion to becoming whole, not perfect. It is the integration of opposites, masculine and feminine, light and dark, child and adult, power and vulnerability. It is the refusal to amputate parts of your psyche to fit into a mold you never agreed to in the first place. And yes, you will lose people. You will outgrow roles. You will disappoint those who loved the illusion of you. But what you gain is freedom. The freedom to wake up without pretending. The freedom to speak without performing. The freedom to stand alone without collapsing. The freedom to feel everything and be ruled by none of it. Because mastery is not the absence of emotion. It is the presence of awareness within emotion. It is the anchor in the storm, the observer behind the mask, the soul behind the script. You are not your thoughts. You are not your fears. You are not your past. You are the awareness that sees them and still chooses to love the self underneath. This is where true strength lives. In the heart that breaks open and remains open. In the soul that falls to its knees and still rises, not in defiance, but in devotion. Devotion to what is real, what is lasting, what cannot be taken from you. Not fame, not power, not the fleeting approval of those who never knew your name, but being, the act of existing in truth. The art of remembering the self beneath the noise. The discipline of walking your path even when no one claps for you. This is not a journey of addition. It is a journey of subtraction, of letting go, of peeling back, of unlearning everything that is not you. And the deeper you go, the more silent it becomes. Because transformation is not loud. It is not shared in highlight reels or performance. It is the quiet work done in the shadows where no one watches but you and God, and the truth that lives at the center of your chest. This is where your shadow becomes your ally, not by conquering it, but by sitting with it, listening to it, honoring it, by letting it speak without flinching. You will realize that the monster under your bed was never a monster. It was your own voice distorted by years of shame. It was your own power mislabeled as dangerous. And when you embrace the shadow not to feed it, but to free it, you find the gold buried beneath the darkness. The unclaimed genius, the raw life force, the unapologetic truth. Jung called this the gold in the shadow, and those brave enough to mine it become whole. Because wholeness is not the absence of flaws. It is the integration of all that you are. And the reward of wholeness is not applause. It is peace, not comfort. Peace. The quiet, knowing that you are no longer at war with yourself. That you no longer need to fake your light to hide your darkness. That you no longer need to explain your boundaries or dim your depth. You simply are, and that is enough. You are not here to be perfect. You're here to be real, and to be real, you must be brave. Brave enough to sit with yourself. Brave enough to disappoint others. Brave enough to unlearn everything that made you smaller than your soul. Because the moment you choose truth over image, substance over safety, you begin to live. Not exist, live. And this living is not measured in years or followers or accolades. It is measured in alignment, in presence, in how deeply you belong to yourself. Most people will never meet their true self, because the cost is too high, because the shadow is too frightening, because silence feels too much like death. But if you are here, if something inside you knows this is not all there is, then I beg you, keep going. Keep descending, keep unraveling, keep listening, because beneath the masks, beneath the pain, beneath the buried pieces and broken dreams, there is a self waiting to be remembered. And when you meet that self, not as a goal, but as a return, you will weep. Not from sadness, from recognition. You'll realize you were never broken. You were only hiding. You'll see that every crack was a doorway, every shadow was a map, every heartbreak was an invitation to come home. And home is not a place. It is the moment you stop running from yourself. So stop running. Turn inward. Let the masks fall. Let the silence speak. Let the shadow rise. And when it does, do not flinch. Do not flee. Do not call it a curse. Call it a key. Because in that darkness, in that quiet, you will find the only thing that ever truly mattered. You. Not the version they wanted. Not the image you maintained, but the you that breathes beneath it all. That is who you must return to. That is who you must fight for. That is who the shadow came to awaken. And if you are brave enough to master that shadow, not with control, but with compassion, you will no longer fear the dark. You will walk through it as light.